So I have a story that proves how undeniably rigged our entire economy is in favor of the wealthy and the elites and against regular working class people in this country. So over the last 2 days now, Reddit has dominated the news because in this Reddit community, and the details of it are kind of wonky and a little confusing. So I'm trying to give you guys a broad stroke and stay away from all the technical language as much as I can. But basically, hedge funds, investment funds, they were betting against GameStop stocks. They were shorting GameStop stocks. And when you short a stock, that basically means you're betting on that stock to fail. So there were a bunch of hedge funds betting on GameStop to fail. And there are several reasons why people do this. Generally speaking, it is a form of market manipulation. Sometimes it's competitors who have a product that they're competing with. And so if they short a stock and they bet against it, a lot of times that can make the company's stock go down and eventually drive them out of business. And that's what they were trying to do with GameStop. But there was a community on Reddit, a subgroup on Reddit, that decided that they were going to counter this by buying up a bunch of GameStop stocks. And so they had a bunch of people, I think it was over 1 million people, use small stock trading apps like Robinhood so that they can make purchases in GameStop stocks and raise the price. So they did this, and GameStop stock prices shot through the roof. And because of that, all the hedge funds that were betting on GameStop to fail, that were shorting GameStop stock, they all lost all their money. And that's a thing. That's part of shorting stocks. It's a risky business. It's a dangerous bet because at any time the business can turn around and the stock prices could go back up, and you lose all your money. But that's what a lot of these hedge funds do. They make risky casino style bets with other people's money, and that's why the stock market is mostly a joke, and it's just playing with fake money. But in this case, they lost all their money. They lost, the last I checked, some of the hedge funds that were shorting GameStop lost $70 billion in investments over the last 2-3 days. So a lot of these hedge funds there's a chance that they're going to go bankrupt. And this was all because regular people decided to play the stock market, just like the wealthy do in this country every single day. And on the tactics alone, a world of credit to those people on Reddit, because that's just something that I would have never thought of. That's something nobody else has ever thought of up to this point, which is these millionaires and billionaires, they basically run the entire stock market. And it's a multi-trillion dollar industry, and they are basically the only people in the country who have the money to play the game. So, or to play the game in a effective way. And most people, if they have the money to invest in the stocks, and most people don't, it's at a very small and inconsequential amount that really won't make an overall difference in the direction of a stock or in the market in general. So for a group of random people to just band together and decide to go all in on a stock, and actually it was more than one stock. They did the same with AMC, the movie theater, company, and they shot their stock up through the roof. So that tactic is amazing, and of course, the end result is what I think is the best part of this, which is they basically bankrupted billion-dollar hedge funds on Wall Street, and that's always a good thing in my opinion, because they play a big role in rigging the economy and extracting wealth from the working class. So this was one time when regular people actually one up them and beat them. So, like I said, on the strategy or world of credit, I'm hearing people saying that this is like Occupy Wall Street 2.0, and this time they are really going to make Wall Street feel it. Because if this is the precedent that we're setting now, and this is how regular people are going to come together to try to have an impact on the stock market, I think a lot of hedge funds who do this kind of investments, shorting stocks and shutting down businesses. And let me get into that just a little bit more. Like when they do this, they are literally going to run the business into the ground until it closes, and they have to fire all their employees and close all their stores. Like that's part of what they're doing, destroying people's livelihoods so that they can make money on an investment that they were making, on a bet that they were making that the company would go bankrupt. So they're on purpose ruining people's lives so that they can make a return on investment. So if this is the way that people combat that type of rigging and gaming the system that the wealthy do, I'm all on board for it. But this leads into the further developments into the story, which have just been mind-blowing over the last 48 hours. Because from this, it has led to other huge bombshell, scandalous stories like Robinhood. This morning, they decided to ban people. They halted the sale of GameStop stocks. They would not allow their millions of users on the Robinhood app, to purchase GameStop stock anymore. And the reason why they did this is to protect the hedge funds who were betting against it. So, in the most clearest, brazen, open market manipulation anybody has ever seen, barring the financial crash of 2008. But this was such a brazen and open attempt to manipulate the stocks so that it goes in the direction that they prefer. And never in history has a trading platform stepped in to protect investors who were losing money off of a bad, risky bet that they made. So the fact that they went to such extraordinary lengths was insanity. So this gets to the question of, or to the conversation about just how openly rigged the economy is in favor of the wealthy. Like, no matter what the scenario is, they can never take a loss. And if they take a loss, it is considered a grave threat to the state. And then they come around and they beg for bailouts like they're doing. A lot of those hedge funds and people who invested in those hedge funds, billionaires and millionaires who invested in those hedge funds who did those risky bets, now they're out trying to pull strings and browbeat the government into bailing out those companies that made risky bets that would have put American companies out of business and put American workers out of a job. Now, because that bet didn't work out for them, they're turning around and say, oh my God, I can't believe how unfair this whole thing is. We need to have the government bail us out. Give us the $70 billion we lost in these risky, unnecessary bets that we did just to further stack our wealth. The government needs to come in and bail out billionaires and millionaires. And then on top of that, they need to change. We need to regulate. They were out literally the traders and the president of Nasdaq. All these so-called free market fundamentalists, they were out there because they were out there shitting bricks because they were afraid of the precedent that this sets. So as soon as they saw billion-dollar hedge funds taking billion-dollar losses, all just from randos on Reddit banding together to stop them from shorting GameStop. When they saw that happen, the red flags went up, and they were like, "Oh shit, they might do this." It might not, this isn't just going to stop at GameStop or AMC. Like, they're just going to keep doing this shit until they run us all out of business. So all these so-called free market fundamentalists were out there begging for the halting of the trading in GameStop stocks. They were begging these platforms to stop allowing people to buy GameStop stocks. And then they're begging for a new regulation to make it so that something like this can never happen. And their reasoning for this is because they call it market manipulation. You can argue that it's market manipulation, but what the random people on Reddit were doing was no more manipulating the market than what these hedge funds were doing when they were trying to short GameStop in the first place. And there's the argument to be made that when they were trying to short GameStop, that was even worse market manipulation. And just to expand on that a little bit, when they short a stock, it's not just that they bet on the stock to fail. Then they get all of their big money friends in the investment community to pile on, to dogpile, and to jump in on and help them short the stock. So it's a concerted effort. And then on top of that, they have their friends in the media run the narrative that they're going out of business to continue to drive down the stock price, and so that at the end they can win when they're trying to short the stock. So this whole thing is a concerted effort to what? Manipulate the markets. So, and again, the way they're doing it, if they get what they want, they get rich and all the workers at GameStop lose their job. So that's gross market manipulation. And if people just came together and said, "Hey, we like GameStop, so let's buy some GameStop stocks so that they don't go out of business," I mean, that's what investors do all the time. They get people who will agree on a certain agenda or agree on that they want to see a company succeed, and then they all buy their stocks. So the fact that people are they're so pretending to be so outraged that regular people are doing the same shit that investors do every single day in this country and make trillions of dollars doing it, as soon as the regular people start playing the game and then they win, "Oh, we have to rewrite the rules, everybody. We can't allow this." And the only people who are allowed to win in the stock market, the only people who are allowed to make a bunch of money doing nothing, is the wealthy elites, the millionaires and the billionaires. Those are the only people who are allowed to win in the stock market. Nobody else is allowed to make big gains. That's the message that they're sending. And like I said, it's showing that under no circumstances are they allowed to lose. Like I mentioned, the stock market is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. The top 1% in this country, 1% wealthiest people in the country, they own 40% of the stocks. 40% of the stocks, just the top 1%. And then the top 10% own 80% of the stocks in this country. So the stock market is a rich people's game to begin with. Regular people are shut out of the market because they just don't have the money to spend buying stocks when they can't even cover their everyday expenses. A lot of the more profitable stocks to buy and trade are stocks that cost like $80, $100, $150 a share. People don't have $150 to just buy one share of a stock and hope that it increases in wealth over the next 10 years. People don't have that money to spend like that because they need that for their everyday expenses. They need that for food and rent and utilities and things like that. So the stock market is just this big gambling casino for the wealthy people in this country so that they can just multiply their wealth. And so in that way, it's always rigged in favor of them. They're always the ones who come out on top in the stock market. But then on top of that, even when they go too far and they make risky investments and through nobody's fault but their own, they bankrupt their companies, then they still turn around and expect to get bailed out from the government. And they do, since they bribe the politicians. They legally bribe the politicians. And then, so when they go bankrupt, they just come out with their hand out talking about, oh, you got to bail us out for the safety and the stability of the overall market. We're too big to fail, so you have to bail us out. So it's always a win-win for them. They can never lose. Like what happened when COVID started. When the pandemic started and everybody was panicking, the stock market was crashing. And when the stock market was crashing, the Fed stepped in and they said, we will not let these big corporations fail. We will not let the entire economy collapse. So they made the decision that they were going to buy trillions of dollars in stocks. They were going to just hand corporations, multi-million-dollar and multi-billion-dollar corporations, trillions of dollars so that they can buy their own stock, so that they can keep money going into their company so that they don't collapse and so that they don't go bankrupt. That's what the federal government did to ensure that Wall Street investment firms and other big corporations did not go bankrupt when COVID started. And compare that to how they helped the people out. They didn't bail the people out. They gave a means-tested $1,200 check and some temporary unemployment for some people who qualified for it. And everybody else they told to kick rocks. There was they didn't have this urgency to make sure that people didn't lose a dime. People didn't lose an inch of financial ground because of this crisis. But look how they handled it with the giant corporations. They cannot lose under any circumstances. Before COVID, they were making money hand over fist, millions of dollars and billions of dollars, these executives making out like bandits. And then, again, the working class was getting screwed. Wealth inequality is worse than it has ever been. Wage slavery is rampant in this country. So the working class was already living paycheck to paycheck. 75% of the country was living paycheck to paycheck before COVID. And they were all making out like bandits. Then COVID happens. The government, everybody's starting to take a loss. The government comes in and bails out the corporations and leaves everybody else for dead. Just like they did in 2008. And in 2008, it was even more egregious because they were the ones who caused the crash. On purpose, through their own recklessness and risky investments and their fraud. They were literally committing fraud on Wall Street in 2008 with the housing bubble. And that caused the financial crash that crashed the entire economy in this country and around the world. So the investment companies, the financial institutions, they through their own fault, they crashed the economy and they bankrupted their companies. And what was the response from the government? We have to bail them out. They're too big to fail. They could have nationalized them, just like many countries in Europe. They nationalized the financial institutions that helped crash their economy. They could have done that here in the United States, but instead it was a blank check. They cannot lose under any circumstances. They took a loss. They went bankrupt from their risky investments. So the government just writes them a check to cover all their losses. And then on top of that, the executives from those same companies who were on purpose defrauding their customers and crashed the economy and bankrupted their company, those same executives turned around and after the government gave them a blank check bailout, they went and gave themselves 6-figure bonuses in the same year. So that's what I'm saying. They can never lose under any circumstances. And the fact that when in this specific scenario, when people on Reddit get the better of them for the first time ever, and they lose badly on a bet for the first time ever, people are moving heaven and earth to bail them out and to make sure that it never happens again. So this is such a damning indictment of our system, because people like to pretend that it's a meritocracy and it's it's the free market. Whatever you put in, you get out. And if you aren't doing well, that's on you. But everybody has the same chance, the same opportunity to be successful and to be wealthy in this country. That is a fucking farce. It's always been a farce. And over the last year, it has become, you are a fucking clown. You might as well walk out your house with face paint and a big red nose and a rainbow wig on if you're still going around talking about how capitalism is great and the free markets exist and we live in a meritocracy. If you still believe that after everything we've seen over the last year, then you're just not paying attention. You're not paying attention. And something else I forgot to mention is so part of the retaliation for against the Redditors who bought this GameStop and AMC stock. So Reddit goes out and bans the community that organized this and bought this stock. They just completely banned it. I think there was hundreds of thousands of users on that subreddit, and Reddit just banned them. And then they, of course, pull out the fig leaf of the vague terms of service violations. And apparently there was hate speech on the subreddit going back months ago. But now they just found it. Oh, they just found it after they bankrupted a $1 billion hedge fund. Oh, it's so convenient. Of course, that's just the excuse that they're using. They're working backwards from their conclusion that we need to ban this because they're threatening the wealth of the billionaires and millionaires in this country. So we just need to get them off the internet, and we'll just make up any type of excuse to do it. And again, so this ties back into this corporate censorship that I've been warning about, that I've been telling you is a grave threat to free speech in this country. Because look at what happened here. Regular people got a win. And because they got a win, the elites weren't happy with it. So they're just going to make sure that people can never do it again. They're going to make sure that people can't even talk about doing this on the internet, because if they do, they'll get banned. So this is just insanity. And I didn't even get into the insane conflicts of interest going on here. And arguably, this can turn into this can very likely turn into a bigger scandal, because the company that owns Robinhood, which was the company that halted trading on or the buying of GameStop stocks so that they can, to help the hedge funds who were trying to short GameStop, they were trying to help them bankrupt the company so they would not allow anybody to buy any more stock in GameStop. The same company that owns Robinhood, I think it's Citadel, they also own the hedge funds or one of the hedge funds who lost big from trying to short GameStop. So there might be a literal case for illegal market manipulation going on there. Because how is it that people who are on one side of the bed also own a giant platform, a giant trading platform where people are trying to counter that short, and then you just up and decide that you're not going to allow people to do that, to make legal investments that would have cost you money? That is literally manipulating the market. So because of that, people sued Robinhood. It was a class action lawsuit filed today. I mean, this is all happening incredibly fast. Class action lawsuit was filed today. And shortly after that, Robinhood allowed people to start buying GameStop stock again. Which means I feel like they knew that there was no way they could defend this in court. And if they kept this up, they'd be in deep shit. And they might already be in deep shit, because the story gets even more twisted. And I'm going to do an entirely separate video about that. But Janet Yellen, Joe Biden's Treasury Secretary, apparently she got paid damn near $1 million from Citadel too, the same company that owns Robinhood and that owns the hedge fund that was trying to short GameStop. Biden's Treasury Secretary, one of the most powerful people or the people who have the most influence on the economy in this country. She got paid $1 million in paid speaking fees by the same company. And now there's allegations that the White House, Joe Biden's administration, arguably Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, on purpose intervened. And they were trying to bully Robinhood into halting anybody from buying GameStop stocks. So the pressure to do this unprecedented step to just stop allowing people to buy a stock just because other people were going to lose money off of it, that came from the White House. And the reason, arguably, why that even happened was because Janet Yellen got paid $1 million from the people who were going to lose money if those trades were allowed to happen. So incredibly corrupt. And I'm going to do another video about that. But this was a wild 2 days. And of course, I understand that the stock market is not a reflection of the economy. Most people don't own stocks, and the ups and downs of a specific company isn't relevant to their lives. But for me, this story is less about this individual hedge fund or this individual stock in GameStop and AMC. And it's more about what this says generally about our economy. How the rich can never lose under any circumstances. And when the poor do win, if there's a rare chance when they do one up the rich, the government and everybody, the entire establishment, swoops in and moves heaven and earth to undo it and to make sure it never happens again.